come, Ray. The one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1.
Line drive to the base. Just as the score the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is safe. Safe at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Forbes Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series for Reggie. The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Blacker throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick that I can brush them away from their faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings, long drive, left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take. I'll tell you what, we're having an earth.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Weaver. Gets it back.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a chance. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, are you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here? You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program on a hazy, kind of rainy, cold, and windy morning here in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting, and this is the cleverly titled Dan Scott Show. How you doing?
Doing good, Dan. Excited. It won't be like this on Saturday. It's going to be nice and sunny for the game against the Citadel, so looking forward to some blue skies and some good football.
Yeah, but according to the weather forecast, on Monday it said maybe 62, 63 degrees.
Mm-hmm.
The forecast this morning for Saturday, still sunny, but now 52, 53 degrees.
Oh, yeah.
So the expected temperature has dropped quite a bit. So it's not to be unexpected this time of year. I had the privilege of being a telephone guest on a show called The Walk-Ons last night out of the Columbia area, which streams on Facebook Live and some other places. And they introduced me and said, he does his own show called The Dan Scott Show. And I said, yeah, I had to give it a name I could remember. So, sadly, I'm at that stage of my life. But had a good time with the guys from the walk-ons last night, and right at the end, apparently they've got a running conversation going on. One of them is a big Dallas Cowboy fan, apparently, and he was trying to make the argument that Tony Romo is one of the top 10 greatest quarterbacks of all time, and I said he may be in the top 10 Dallas quarterbacks of all time. They said, well, what are the criteria? I said, well, for him, upright and breathing.
There you go. That is true. He's had a hard time staying injury-free. That's probably why he's in the booth right now, not on the field.
And doing surprisingly well.
Oh, he's doing fantastic.
But the old joke was you'll get to November here, which is when he started to struggle a lot during his career, and he'll sprain his jaw and go on the IR or something like that. So that's kind of the jokes that have been out there. But just wanted to tip a cap and say thanks to the guys at the Walk-Ons for having me on last night. I enjoyed the time and the fun that we had on the program. Coming up today, Dave Glenn joins us at 10:25 to talk all things Atlantic Coast Conference. Be interesting to get his take on Dave Doran's act and the act of the NC State fans after the game last week between NC State and Clemson.
Was he there this weekend?
I don't know if that's was one of his tailgate spots or not. We'll find out.
Okay.
It very well could have been, considering the magnitude of the game.
Absolutely.
So we'll talk to Dave as we always do, and then after meetings interfering yesterday, Brian Bratton assures us today that everything should be on track for a 10:45 visit. The former Paladin wideout, Furman Hall of Famer, now wide receivers coach, going to be here to lend a little of the former player perspective on the Citadel rivalry and also talk about this year's club.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun, Dan. Looking forward to having him in studio and get some insight and some old football days from the player's perspective.
Yeah, when he was here in the early 2000s, of course, this was an offensive juggernaut.
Oh, yes.
They put up a lot of yards on the ground and through the air here at Furman, and Brian was a big part of that. So he'll have some thoughts on the Citadel, I'm sure. And, of course, we're pointing to that game coming up on Saturday here at Paladin Stadium. As we always do at the top of the show, we need to talk a little bit about things that are going on here at Furman. If you're new to the program, we always try to give our Furman teams a little bit of love right at the top of the program, what's going on campus, award winners, and that kind of thing. And then we move on into the other aspects of the show, which includes a deeper and broader look at the world of sports most days. But some things going on right now, including a nice honor for one of the men's soccer players.
You got that right, Dan. Lawrence Wyke, he captured the SoCon Player of the Year honors. It's the first time that a Paladin has won it since 2011 when Colton Henning won it, and it's the Paladin's 13th Player of the Year in school history. Wyke was also named to the SoCon first team with fellow midfielder and defenseman Kevin Edelman. On the second team, Cole and Kyle McClagan, Danny Kearth, and Ben Hale. And on the freshman team, Ben Hale and Cole McClagan. were named to that. So congrats to their outstanding season and all their accolades, and hopefully they can continue their great season this Friday at 6 o'clock at Stone's Soccer Stadium right here in Greenville, South Carolina. The football team, Matthew Smith, was named the ScanSource Student Athlete Leader of the Month, so congrats to him for that. And the women's lacrosse team announced their schedule for the 2018 season. They have home games against Presbyterian, Davidson, Iona, San Diego State, Dan, Jacksonville, Stetson, Central Michigan, Detroit Mercy, and they close out the year with the game at home against Wofford.
San Diego State's coming all the way out here, huh? Nice. Wonder if that's a return match next year.
I should hope it is, Dave. That's going to be a fun trip for the ladies.
Suddenly, Forrest wants to cover women's lacrosse next year.
Huge lacrosse fan, Dan.
Mm-hmm. In any event, that's all of a sudden he's a lacrosse fan. Exactly. That's
good luck with that.
That's a look at what's going on here on campus. We also do a little trivia at the start of each program. We have the wonderfully exotic prizes of either an attaboy or a pat on the back to give you at the end of the program if you happen to guess correctly. But always a little fun to play along. And I think in keeping with the theme this week, we're going to stay on Furman Citadel.
That is correct. And today's question, what year did Furman score the most points against the Citadel, and how many points did they score? So the most points scored against the Citadel in school history, and what year did they score the most points?
I don't know. Can I phone a friend?
Sure. Well, yeah.
Get Hunter Reed on the phone, please.
There you go. I like that idea.
So what year did they score the most points against the Citadel, and how many points was it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so there's your question. You can leave your answers in the comment section on Facebook Live. You can do it in the comments box on Twitter and Periscope that we have available, or you can just tweet it to @DanScott_Show. All right, when we come back, we have a lot to get into, including the unfortunate news that broke yesterday afternoon about the death of Roy Halladay in a plane crash. We're going to talk about that. The Gold Gloves were awarded in Major League Baseball yesterday, and you really have to be disciplined, very, very self-disciplined, not to get caught up in the, of course, it was LeVar Ball's son.
Yes.
We'll talk about that
goodness.
when we come back as well. First, just a reminder that the show, as always, is brought to you by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. This morning is one of those cool mornings, and it feels a little colder than it is because of the wind. Got a little bit of rain, a little bit of mist out there. And so for breakfast this morning, I had the hot turkey sausage, egg, and cheese sandwich on honey wheat. It was fantastic. Still drinking my hot coffee from the Atlanta Bread Company, and it's good all the time, but on mornings like this, it seems to have that little extra kick to it. So I just encourage you to stop by and see them. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner, they've got hot soups, hot sandwiches, they've got chili, and a bevy of hot drinks that'll kind of warm your soul on those cold days. And if it's not something hot you're looking for, they've got that as well. Don't forget that coming up through Thanksgiving, the specialty sandwich they have available right now is the turkey cranberry sandwich with the cranberries baked right into the bread. Great place, even better people. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza, right down the road here from campus. You will hear more from them in this commercial set, and we'll be back to get into Forrest's three things ahead of Dave Glenn right after this. Stay with us.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT unpimiented cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
Hey Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show. All right, welcome back to the program here on this overcast, kind of cold and windy day here in the upstate of South Carolina, but all is nice and comfortable here in the studio.
Oh, you got that right there.
Anyway, we are back. Good to have you with us, and let's get things rolling here because we've got a lot to get to before we get to Dave Glenn coming up at about 10:25. And before we get into Force Official three things, the chorus of outpouring of mourning and grief. Yes. For the loss of Roy Halladay is something that, if you were watching yesterday, was just overwhelming. The number of people that loved and respected this guy, and if you've been under a rock and you haven't heard, he was piloting his own plane and it crashed in the Gulf down outside of Texas, wasn't it?
Florida.
Yeah.
Near,
Florida,
near St. Petersburg,
outside of Pasco County. That's
yeah.
right, and he passed away at age 40, and was just a phenomenal pitcher, and apparently just as good of a person. In fact, after retiring after the 2013 season, he's been coaching youth baseball.
Yeah, dominating that. Yeah,
and then the last tweet that he did, in fact, had a picture of him with some of his young players. And talked about not only being the best team but the classiest, and I think
that's always important to him.
That kind of described Roy Halladay. All I know about him from a competition standpoint was when he was at his best with the Blue Jays first, and then with the Phillies. He was as good as anybody in baseball, and I think the numbers bear that out. In 2010, in the first game of the division series in the playoffs, of course, he threw that no-hitter against my Reds and just basically shoved that fastball and slider down our throats for 9 innings. He was, well, literally and figuratively unhittable that day. And you start looking at some of the numbers of Roy Halladay during the time when he was dominant from 2002 to 2011, and I think the tweet that I saw yesterday, and I'll get these numbers close to right, but in games he started, he won 197 games during those years. Games he started, his teams were 84 games over 500, I think it was. And in games that anybody else started, they were close to 70 games under 500.
That's a drastic turnaround.
That's just ridiculous.
Yep.
Is what it is.
And just 2 stories about Roy Halladay pretty quickly about his work ethic. First day of spring training with the Phillies. Chase Utley arrived at 5:45, and Doc was there. Roy Halladay was eating his breakfast, and he was soaking wet. and Chase Elliott asked him if it was raining when he got there, and he said, "No, I just finished my workout." And then Chase Elliott said that was when he first knew that that's when Roy Halladay was a real deal. Then another story is that his first year in the major leagues in 1998, he almost pitched a no-hitter on the last day of the season, but gave up a home run with 2 outs in the 9th inning. Then subsequently went down to the minors for the next year or two because he just could not throw strikes, changed his arm angle from over the top to down below, and then came back to dominate the major leagues for a good 10-plus years. So it goes to show how much of a work ethic he had, his character, just how a great person he was. He didn't throw upper 90s, but he had a nasty cutter that kind of had that scissor effect. Like you could throw inside to lefty or to righties and inside to lefties as well. Go either way. And that, as you said, Dan, that nasty slider he had was just incredible. And some of the stats, he had 63 complete games from 2002 to 2011. You will never see that ever again. Averaged 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. His ERA plus was 1.48, which is just below Roger Clemens from that era. So he's one of the greats. Has passed.
Yeah, and that number of complete games I think I saw was 30 more than any other pitcher during that time, which was just ridiculous. His overall numbers, 203 and 105, with a where's the earned run average? With a 3.38 earned run average in 16 seasons. But man, you look between 2002 and 2011, except for a 2004 season when he missed time with injury, and also 2005 a little bit. But 19 wins, 22 wins, 16, 16, 20, 17, 21, 19. I mean, he was as good and as consistently good as anybody in baseball. There was thought that he was a Hall of Fame worthy pitcher anyway. I don't know if those numbers will get him in, but I saw one writer propose yesterday kind of what they did with Roberto Clemente after Clemente died, and they waived the 5-year rule and made him eligible immediately. Halladay's last year was 2013, so he's getting close to the threshold anyway. But just a sad day. And one last little bit of irony, and then we'll move on. Halladay and Corey Lytle were teammates with the Blue Jays in 2003. And both died in plane crashes.
Wow. That's just a tragic loss for everybody, Dan.
Absolutely. So, but onward and upward we go, right?
Yes, sir, yeah. The NL, the Gold Gloves were announced last night, and just to go over the NL and AL squad, starting at first base and going around the horn, we'll go Paul Goldschmidt. He's a 3-time Gold Glove Award winner, most in D-backs history. DJ LeMahieu at second base, 2-time Gold Glove Award winner. Brandon Crawford at short. That's his 3rd in a row and the 3rd overall, and the first NL shortstop to win 3 in a row since Jimmy Rollins. Nolan Arenado, he wins his 5th straight and 5th overall. And the last player to win 5 straight Gold Gloves or more from their rookie career onward is Ichiro, and he won 10 in a row. That's just unbelievable there. Left field, Marcell Ozuna, his first Gold Glove. Ender Inciarte in center, his 2nd Gold Glove. Jason Hayward in right, his 5th overall and 4th straight. Behind the dish, Tucker Barnhart, first Gold Glove Award winner and the first Red since Johnny Bench. And you'll see a little bit of a similar thing with the catchers on the AL side, a little bit of a changing of the guard, if you will. And then pitcher Zach Greinke, he's a 4-time Gold Glove Award winner and 4th straight. And the first pitcher to win 4 straight since the great Greg Maddux. On the AL side, starting from at first base and going around the horn, Eric Hosmer, his 4th Gold Glove. Second base, Brian Dozier, his 1st. He's the 2nd twin to win at second base and the 1st since Chuck Knobloch. At shortstop, Andrelton Simmons, his 3rd Gold Glove. At third base, I have a big problem with this, Dan. Just going to say that off the bat. Evan Longoria, a 3rd-time Gold Glove Award winner, 1st since 2010. That's the most in Rays history. I thought this was a travesty that Machado did not win this because he is a far better defender than Longoria is, in my opinion. At left field, Alex Gordon, his fifth Gold Glove. He's a converted third baseman, so it makes it even more impressive. You want a Gold Glove in left field. Center field, Byron Buxton, the speedy outfielder. He's the third Twin center fielder to win it. Kirby Puckett and Toy Hunter are the others. In right field, Mookie Betts is second straight and second overall. And behind the dish, Martin Maldonado of the Angels. One of my favorite catchers to watch in the game. He's got a great arm. He's very centered with the ball. His footwork is unbelievable, so he's a lot of fun to watch behind the dish. And at pitcher, Marcus Stroman, his first Gold Glove Award winner as well.
Gold Glove has become, in a lot of cases, an offensive award, which is obviously not what it's intended for just by the name. But if you've watched the recent history of how it's changed over the last probably 20 years or so, the leaning has gone towards offensive players, unfortunately. I was a little surprised. I know NCarte is a great center fielder. You watch Billy Hamilton every single day. I was surprised that he got denied again. I was surprised that Adam Duvall, who led all the Major League Baseball outfielders in assists, got denied in left field. But I thought Barnhart was speaking as a Reds fan, I thought Barnhart was well deserving. He led in number of runners thrown out, percentage.
Yep.
All of those categories that are so important for a catcher. He was tops in the National League. So
I think he was number one. He blocked the most pitches as well, and he's only had one error in 110 games. So that goes to show how much how solid he is back behind the plate.
That's pretty good stuff.
And a consistent basis too.
All right, that's thing one. What's thing two?
The second version of the college football rankings were released last night, and unlike last week, there were not many surprises. The top five held firm. That's the first time in the college football rankings that has happened. Top the list, you have Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Oklahoma. And then you have TCU, Miami, Wisconsin, Washington, and number 10, Auburn. But with the losses of OSU, that allowed those teams to move up because Ohio State and Penn State moved up. I was surprised, and USC is at number 11. I was surprised they jumped up 6 spots. Then at 12 to 14, you have 3 Big Ten teams: Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State, and then Oklahoma State. And I thought Oak State should be above both Michigan State and Ohio State. Maybe not Penn State, but that's just my opinion. But the dust could settle a little bit this week with 3 big games. You have number 1, Georgia against number 10, Auburn. You have number 3, Notre Dame going up against number 7, Miami. And number 6, TCU going up against number 5, Oklahoma. So some pretty heady matchups this weekend to kind of clear some things up atop those rankings and maybe solidify some teams in that top 4.
Yeah, I think both Georgia and Alabama are on the road this week.
Alabama plays Mississippi State.
Yeah, in the SEC and losing two starting linebackers for the season. What kind of effect will that have? Somebody kind of floated the idea yesterday, upset alert, maybe. I don't think so.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
And I'll say this, too. Auburn plays Georgia this week and Alabama the following week, so they really control their own destiny. If they can beat those 2 teams and beat Georgia in the SEC championship game, I think they will be a 2-loss team to make it, because if you go down the season and win those last 3 games, the committee will not deny them a spot in the Final Four. But I'm not saying it's going to happen, just saying it could happen. They control their own destiny. But I do not think that Auburn will beat Georgia this weekend. Just to get a little preview of the picks tomorrow.
And then suddenly this Miami and Notre Dame game has a lot of significance again. All those
Catholics
years after Catholics versus convicts. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that's the latest poll. I'm sure Kibitz about that a little bit more. But quickly, let's get to the third thing before we go to break.
Yeah, 3 UCLA freshmen were arrested 2 days ago in all places China for shoplifting, and that includes LeAngelo Ball, Cody Riley, and Jalen Hill. They were caught stealing at a Louis Vuitton store, and 20 Chinese police officers stormed the hotel that was right next to the Louis Vuitton store. They questioned those 3 players for hours, and they also questioned some Georgia Tech players because they're playing Friday night in China. The GT players were let go, but after being interrogated, the 3 players admitted to the crime, and this is a very serious situation. Dan, China not the place to be arrested for shoplifting.
No, about 2.5 hours ago, it was reported that the 3 players were released on bail, so they're out of jail. Highly doubtful that any of them will play in the game.
Oh, I'd be shocked
if they do. There's something wrong, but
yeah.
we can't spend a whole lot of time on this. We'll maybe get Dave's thought on it since Georgia Tech was involved here in a moment. But of all the places in the world to be stupid, China, communist China, with what we know about just about everything that goes along with them from a human rights standpoint to the brutality of the way they treat foreigners who do things like this. You're going to do this in China?
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
I don't get it, Dan.
Well, I do. Again, it's a culture. It's a culture of athletes who've been on scholarship their entire life, and they think they're 10 foot tall and bulletproof, and they found out that they're not. And I honestly believe that diplomatically things will be worked out, and they'll be scared to death and sent out. But I mean, let's face it, doing that in that country, those 3 players could conceivably be in jail for a long time. But I don't think it'll come to that. But still, come on.
It's the worst. The worst thing you could do.
It's shouldn't be done anywhere.
Sure.
Obviously, stealing is wrong. But you're gonna steal in China? Are you kidding me? Unbelievable. All right, let's go to break. We'll come back. Dave Glenn joins us on the other side, and we'll get his thoughts on quite a few things, including that. This is the Dan Scott Show. We'll return in just a moment.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Traveler's Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
So you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPR Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back to the show. It's 10:28 as we continue here on this Wednesday edition of the program. Dan Scott, Forrest Stulting here in studio. For years now, this has been my favorite segment of every week. Long for the days that it was 2 segments when he was known as a segment killer, but that's when we had 3 hours to do every day. Right now, we're just glad to have Dave Glenn for about 15 minutes or so every week. He is the chief cook and bottle washer at ACCsports.com and apparently turned down LeVar Ball's call needing a lawyer after the events of yesterday. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Dan. Always fun to be with you. I'll tell you what, there are some places in this world that you don't want to get involved with the criminal justice system. And I wouldn't say that China is dead last on that list. Maybe North Korea would be last, but China is in the top 10 or so. So they better be careful what they do. They better be careful what they say, because that's one of the wrong places to get into trouble.
Yeah, well, and no question, we were just marveling at honestly the level of stupidity, if you want to get right down to it.
Yeah.
And to me, Dave, I don't know how much you want to go into this, or even if you do, but I'll throw it out there, and then you can run with it or drop it. It's up to you. But to me, it represents a culture of athletes who have been on scholarship basically since they were very, very young, and think they can get away with anything, 10-foot tall and bulletproof, so to speak.
Yeah.
And when 20 police officers from the Red China Army come storming in on you, or whatever it was yesterday, that had to be a little bit of a rude awakening.
Yeah, and, in our country, we always say innocent until proven guilty, so we're not sure yet, at least last I saw. But they're charged with stealing sunglasses from a Louis Vuitton store. And for those who don't know, that's very high-end stuff. That's not stealing a pair of $2 sunglasses as you are checking out from, the little local Circle K after filling up your car with gas. That's pure theft. If they're proven guilty, I think it is a reflection of that culture. I mean, and in particular, the Ball family has lots and lots of money. Dad has a lot of money. Older brother has a lot of money. And of all the people who wouldn't need to steal anything, you'd think they'd be somewhere on that list. We live in a world, guys, where seriously, you might remember this case. It's not in the sports world, but there was a man young person, who thought it was funny if he would just steal a poster off of a hotel wall.
From Virginia, I believe.
Yeah. Now, that young man happened to do it in the nation of North Korea, which is maybe rock bottom on that list of nations we were discussing. And that man was held for the rest of his life, essentially, over thinking it was funny while traveling with a group of students to rip a poster off of a wall of a hotel in North Korea. And that man died, essentially in the process much, much later of getting back to the United States of America. Mm-hmm. Again, the China situation's not going to be that dire or severe, but it's just another reflection of a culture where you can think you're being funny in one case, or you can think you're getting away with something in a shoplifting case, but you can get a rude awakening in the worst way in North Korea, and we'll see how severe the circumstances end up in China.
How does a game like this come about? Since Georgia Tech's involved, it's got an ACC lean to it. We see games being played in different places now more and more often, but how does China come into the equation from a Georgia Tech standpoint?
Yeah, I don't know all of the details, but certainly the sport of basketball is trying to be a global game. And universities have the ability to travel internationally, sometimes for preseason practice reasons. And for example, NC State of the ACC this year had a trip to Italy. So a brand new coach, Kevin Keats, had a getting to know you stretch of both games against high level competition on the court, but also he's new. He's still getting to know his own players. It's a new staff. So there's a bonding process that can take place. When it comes to these early season games, it's a little bit different. It's still part marketing. It's still an outreach program, if you will. Georgia Tech and UCLA view themselves as international universities. And if you look at their student body populations, they're both going to have a significant, higher percentage than you would find at most places, percentage of international students. So it's certainly involving more than basketball. It's branding, it's marketing, it's outreach. But I don't know the specific details of how the Shanghai matchup ended up in this case between UCLA and Georgia Tech.
We'll come back to Georgia Tech in just a bit because there's some things going on off the court with Josh Pastner's program that maybe have him in a little bit of hot water as we continue our weekly visit with Dave Glenn of ACCSports.com. But Dave, just wanted to get your thoughts on the post-game annex after the Clemson-NC State game up in Raleigh, from everything from the fans, the way they acted toward officials, to Dave Doran's act in the post-game press conference, and maybe contrasting that with some other things that we've seen. But what was your thought? First of all, I can't remember, was your tailgating tour at that game?
Yes, it was. It was there, and that's why I have I hope an interesting perspective on the whole fans' misbehavior. I really believe, and I mean, I was there from before noon until probably after 9 o'clock at night, while also enjoying the 3:30 kickoff itself and the football itself. And it was a fantastic football game overall. Mm-hmm. And truly 99.9% of what I saw was a positive reflection on Wolfpack football fans, a positive reflection on Clemson football fans, and a positive reflection on what college football atmospheres can be all about. I mean, seriously, over 9+ hours, 99.9% of what I saw was something that would really bring a smile to your face. The viral video, of course, is idiotic, small numbers of Wolfpack fans spitting, cursing, and throwing stuff at referees as they run off the field. So do those people deserve everybody's criticism and disdain? Absolutely yes. Is that a tiny, tiny part of what happened? I would say absolutely yes to that as well. So it was unfortunate with the fans, but I hope folks can keep it in perspective.
But isn't that normally how it works? The lunatic fringe is the one that gets most of the attention?
It is, and again, they deserve it. That small number deserves every last ounce of criticism that they get. But Wolfpack Nation deserves a lot of credit for filling that stadium and creating a great atmosphere that allowed for the possibility of an upset. You know, being loud at all the right times to try to bother the Clemson offense, et cetera. There were the usual complaints about this call or that call. But it's a shame that a fraction of 1% gave so many others a bad name. And with Dave Doran in the postgame, you know, I really think experienced coaches watch their words more closely. And Coach Doran, who's a really good guy, and I think speaks from the heart a lot, repeatedly has stepped into piles of manure, for lack of a better term, by just being a little bit reckless with his words. And what I mean by that is, if I were the Wolfpack's coach and I was told of a laptop on the sideline, when I know that that's against the rules, I'm not going to like that, right? But that doesn't mean in the emotion of a close loss to the number 4 team in the nation, I'm going to bring it up seconds or minutes after I find out that something happened and I have no idea what it was, right? You know, the wisdom of experience tells you, I'm going to file that away and maybe ask for an explanation behind closed doors. And if it's something nefarious, I'm going to make it public. But if it turns out to be something innocent, you know, like a student being in the wrong place while working on a social media account, I'm just going to let it go for what it is, and that is something completely unrelated to this football game. Dave Doran, after the Wolfpack lost by 3 touchdowns at Notre Dame, accurately pointed out that the Wolfpack lost a half a dozen players early to injury in that game, and accurately pointed out that there were a couple of officiating calls that went against him. But, Dan, you and I have both been around long enough. When you get your tail kicked, when you are dragged up and down the field by Notre Dame for 3 hours, and even though you know they're running the football, you still give up more than 300 rushing yards while losing by 3 touchdowns. That is the wrong time to complain about a few calls or a few injuries. Mm-hmm. It's just the wrong time. Even if you're right about the calls that were incorrect, even if you're accurate when you talk about key players who missed a lot of plays, nobody wants to hear it when you gave up 300-plus rushing yards and lost by 3 touchdowns. You know, maybe you understand when a coach brings up officiating in a close game. Nobody wants to hear it, even if you're right, when you get crushed. And Coach, he's been around long enough that he should be smarter about these things. But I think he unnecessarily, you know, caused Dabo Swinney to feel like his integrity was being attacked. and he unnecessarily went down roads after the Notre Dame game the week before that just nobody wants to hear. And he has to see the bigger picture better than that, as most coaches do.
Hey, Dave Forrest here. So everyone's talking about 2 SEC schools possibly going to the college football playoff. My question is, if Miami beats Notre Dame this weekend and Clemson just edges Miami in the ACC championship game, is there any chance that you'll see Clemson and Miami in the college football playoff?
Any chance? Yes. High percentage chance of that scenario you just laid out there happening? No. And we have a lot of those, Forrest. I mean,
yeah.
There's a crazy scenario. I mean, the three of us are relatively informed, fair-minded men, right? What if Alabama goes 13-0, Georgia goes 12-1 and loses in a close SEC title game to the Crimson Tide? Notre Dame does go 11-1. What if Clemson is the 12-1 ACC champion? Oklahoma's the 12-1 Big 12 champion. Washington is a 12-1 Pac-12 champion, and somehow, some way, Wisconsin is a 13-0 Big 10 champion. I just gave you, and that's assuming Miami lost somewhere along the way to Notre Dame or otherwise. I just gave you 7 teams that would expect to be in the college football playoff in those hypotheticals. And, of course, we only have room for 4. Now, in all years to this point, those, oh, my goodness, what would the committee do hypotheticals have not unfolded, right? It was a little easier to leave Penn State out last year, even as the Big Ten champion, because they had lost twice. So, yeah, they beat Ohio State head-to-head, but the Buckeyes lost only once. Nittany Lions lost twice, and we haven't had a two-loss team in the playoff yet. Your hypothetical is a fascinating one, and the ultimate answer is we're not sure what would happen in that scenario, whether it could be Clemson and Miami representing the ACC. For that to happen, you have to also root for Wisconsin to lose, Washington to lose, Oklahoma to lose. And maybe even other things. So it's possible, but those one-loss Power 5 conference champions, I think, would get the benefit of the doubt in most cases, even over that one-loss Miami team in your hypothetical.
Well, we were talking yesterday, kind of bouncing off of the conversation we had last week about the possibilities of when we might see this field expand to an 8-team field, and your feeling was that it'll be at the end of this contract. And if I remember correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you said largely in part, if nothing else now, the presidents don't want to be seen as making a money grab with the FBI investigation going on. Having said that, though, it's bad enough for the Power 5 conferences if one of them is left out. It's even worse if 2 teams from the SEC get in, say Alabama and Georgia get in, and 2 of the Power Conference teams are left out. If Notre Dame makes it, Alabama and Georgia make it, 3 of the Power 5 teams are going to be left out. I think that would take the issue with the money grab off the table. I think that might spur some action.
I still believe that we'll get to the end of this contract before, and I'm cool with 8. I mean, I waited so long for 4 that I still wake up just thankful and counting my blessings that we finally have a bracket-style playoff after people like you and I were lied to for 40 years about why we couldn't have one. And it was just ridiculous and one of the most mind-numbing aberrations in the history of American sports and just insane. So I'm glad we have 4. I hope we get to 8 at some point. I'm not a fan of anything larger than that. But to get to your hypothetical, I do believe, Dan, that the details would matter. And what I mean by that is, if your Alabama and Georgia both make it, Notre Dame makes it, there's only 1 spot left for 4 conferences. If that comes true, nobody will feel sorry if it becomes a 2-loss Big 12 champion. Nobody will feel sorry for a 2-loss say Big 10 champion, which is very possible. Nobody would feel sorry for a 2-loss Pac-12 champion. Those are very realistic possibilities that Pac-12, Big 10, and Big 12 champions have 2 losses each. So if it happens that way, we're just kind of back to where we were last year with some minor grumbling. about whether Penn State should have gotten in. But if you have 2 losses, most of the sympathy goes out the window. If you have all those 1-loss Power 5 champions and 3 of them are left out, that will definitely inspire some high-level conversations about where we go forward with the college football playoffs.
And I think, too, they have to consider this. This is to find the top 4 best teams, not the top 4 best teams that won conference championships. I think if they kind of put those conference championships to the side and really look at who are the top 4 teams in college football, not even worry about the conference championships necessarily.
Just remember, it is specifically listed in their criterion as a major factor. So they specifically say that the conference championship matters. So, we all could throw our own playoff with our own criterion if we wanted to, but they only a handful of things they do list, and they list conference champion status as one of those very important stated principles that they keep in mind.
Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, and the David Glenn Show joining us here on the program. We've got to get into wrap-up mode with Brian Bratton going to be joining us here in just a moment. But let's go full circle back to Georgia Tech, the situation with Josh Pastner, the 2 players being suspended, and now the guy at the center of this thing saying that Pastner and Georgia Tech underreported, undervalued in their self-report of the impermissible benefits. What are you seeing shake out in all of this?
Well, the bottom line is that Josh Pastner probably will wiggle out of this situation as long as the facts suggest that he has some plausible deniability. And what I mean by that is, I knew that my old friend had relationships with my players, but I had no idea that he was paying for all these trips and all this and all that. And that doesn't mean Georgia Tech gets off the hook. That just means Josh Pastner's place in the middle of this as the Yellow Jackets basketball coach could take a turn for the better for him or for the worse. And for the worse, I mentioned, because remember when these original allegations came out about those key players getting impermissible benefits, of course, Josh Pastner was going to be asked questions by the Georgia Tech administration, his athletic director or otherwise. And if the answers he gave to those questions were proven untrue when Josh Pastner's former friend in Memphis started volunteering all of these details and basically said, hey, that Georgia Tech release about why those players are suspended, man, that's only the tip of the iceberg, this guy said. I gave those guys a lot more than what Georgia Tech just reported. If Josh Pastner lied to his superiors, then this case could take a much different turn. But it's never good. This is why we advise against, conspiring against laws and NCAA rules and other things. This is basically an old buddy of Josh Pastner from Memphis who knows a lot, and when their relationship soured, started remembering, hey, Josh, this thing that happened will not reflect well on you, and this other thing reflects poorly on you, and I might talk to the NCAA about it. And if you don't do this or this or this the way I want you to, I might just share all this information. So most coaches, have things they'd like to forget in their careers. And in this case, it's a good example of Josh Pastner, talking to this guy apparently dozens of times on the phone while he was threatening to release this information, and then ending up looking bad when this guy goes public with more details about what those players took.
It's a never-ending soap opera. Never-ending.
It is.
All right, Dave, tell everybody how they can find out more about what you do.
ACCSports.com is the place to go. Coach interviews, athlete interviews, the audio, ACC-related from my statewide David Glenn Show. That's where it's at. The basketball magazine, our annual glossy, is out with an incredibly rich and deep ACC in that sport as they get underway this coming weekend. And of course, we have a lot more football and recruiting to talk about as well. That's our Grand Central station, ACCSports.com.
All right, my friend. Thank you. We will talk to you again Wednesday of next week.
All right, Dan, Forrest, take care, guys. Enjoy the games.
Thanks, Dave.
That's Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, and the David Glenn Show. Quick break, and then the man is in the house. Brian Bratton will be here in studio with us right after this. Don't go away.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials. which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget their gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today. All right, welcome back. It's the final segment of the program. Our thanks to Dave Glenn for joining us in the previous segment, as he does every Wednesday. Sitting in with us here to close out the program here on Citadel Week is a guy who knows quite a bit about the Furman-Citadel rivalry. He played here from the 2001 through 2004 seasons as a Furman Hall of Famer, went on to get some nice hardware with a couple of years in the Canadian Football League Grey Cup championships, and now back here in year 3, right, as a wide receivers coach.
Yep, year 3.
You're getting old.
Tell me about it.
That's Brian Bratton joining us here on the program. How are you, my friend?
I'm good.
I know we tried to do this yesterday, but in any point in time in the inside this football building, Clay Hendricks trumps Dan Scott.
No doubt.
He trumps a lot of people, doesn't he?
No doubt. Yeah, I mean, it's just been one of those weeks. Obviously, we had the bye week to kind of get prepared, but this week we're really solidifying our game plan and trying to put our guys in the best situation to be successful. So,
and Clay actually was very forthcoming about this last week in the bye week. There were going to be 3 practices, give the kids some time to get caught up on academics, but also said during that time probably work a little bit on Samford during the bye week. But now it's all locked in, obviously, on the Citadel here in game week and the unique challenge they bring. Before we even talk about your memories, let's talk about this game coming up Saturday. Is this the record doesn't suggest it, but you see the film. Is this Citadel team as good or as dangerous as the Citadel teams of the previous couple of years?
Well, I think they have had some guys graduate, and obviously they had to me, I thought was one of the best defensive backs in the league last year, D. Delaney, who went to Miami and is now playing at Miami. So there's a couple of different pieces that they bring, and I think that maybe they didn't do some of the things that they did well, like D. Delaney did well, but they have something that they do well that adds to the difficulties that they bring as a football team. And obviously they're a team that's going to be tough and hard-nosed just by the nature of who they are and what they go through on a daily basis. So you're looking at a team is going to be aggressive. They're going to come after you, especially defensively as we look at it, and then offensively everybody knows what they do, and they do it pretty well.
You were telling me right before we came back out of the break and talking about how this team has run the football this year and just a complete 180-degree turn from the previous 3 seasons. And you called yourself the happiest wide receiver coach in America, which might be odd considering we only threw it 5 times last week.
Right.
But the number of catches are down, but boy, the yards per catch are way up for all of our receivers.
Yeah, and you got to look at that. You got to look at the production. What's a lot of volume if you're not getting anywhere with it? And that's what I tell the receivers that we're recruiting. Yeah, we're not going to be a team that throws the ball 70 times a game. I mean, that's just not who we are. But when we do throw it, we get big chunks. I mean, you look at the statistics You know, we're up there in the country as far as yards per reception, yards per attempt, passing efficiency, and all that. And I think that you have to put some value on that rather than just how many times you're letting it go.
In your Furman career, you went 3-1 against the Citadel. Your one loss was a 10-9 loss to the Bulldogs.
I remember that game.
What are some of your memories from your times as a player in the purple and white?
Well, I do remember playing against Willie Simmons. I believe that was down at the Citadel. I remember being here, and I think it was 2004. And the last time we played them, I think I scored twice here, had a long reverse, and then a pass. I think it was a really good game. Obviously, you know, we had a star-studded team then. We had Engel, we had Isaac, we had a lot of guys on defense and played pretty good. You know, they've always been that tough-nosed, physical team. Back then, they didn't do what they did now as far as the triple option and stuff like that offensively, but you always knew that you were going to get a physical game, and very similar to the guys that they have now, and kind of their mentality is they just get in a 60-minute fight and try to be tougher, and, you know, we got to match it. You know, we got to come with it offensively, defensively, and then, you know, even on special teams, we got to come with it and match their intensity and be just as physical as they are.
When you were playing, had Wofford kind of taken that mantle with your generation of players as the biggest rivalry, or was it still the Citadel? Because I think right now, if you ask students, if you ask players, maybe Wofford holds a little bit of a higher level of intensity from a rivalry standpoint, but among people of a certain age, it'll always be the Citadel. Where was it when you were here?
Yeah, I think that we understood the history between Furman and the Citadel. Was it a rivalry? Yeah, because of what was before us. I think in those days, we looked at our rivalry. Really, everybody was Furman's rival because we were so successful, and you got everybody's best game every single week. But I think that you looked at the Georgia Southerns, where we had sellout crowds, and it was coming down to the last play of the game. Appalachian State, who couldn't win here, and then we couldn't win up there, and crazy things would just happen. So those are all games that I would consider rivals. But as far as Furman's oldest rivalry, you look at the Citadel, understand Wofford was just kind of coming into, I think we were 3-1 against Wofford while I was here too, losing 7-6 here in 2003. But I think Wofford was that team that was coming. We never looked at them as quite like those other three as far as a rivalry, but the proximity always made it an interesting matchup.
It's just intriguing from a player's standpoint, from era to era, how that view changes. You know what the history is, but in that moment, for you guys, as you mentioned, Georgia Southern, Appalachian State were probably the two biggest. But historically, I'm sure people let you know when you were a player that, you know, say what you want as a player, but to us, this is the game that won the match.
And I think it's important for our guys to know that now. I mean, this thing goes back, and you are where you are because of the people that came before you and the programs and the years and the history. So you got to take time to understand the past and understand how big this game is to a lot of people. And so I think that they understand it. They get the stories. You know, the same stories I got, they get. And so I think that they got to do a good job of just embracing the past and understanding what this game means.
How has the rivalry kind of changed from you as going from a player to a coach now? How is it, you look at things a little bit differently, or is it kind of the same?
Well, I think it's the same, and I think that each season takes on its own identity. And for this season, for us, I mean, the way that it started now, the way we've kind of on the roll, I mean, this is the biggest game of the year. And it just happens to be the Citadel, which makes it even bigger. So I think from a coaching standpoint, yeah, it's tough being a coach and not a player because you can't go out there and do it. I'm trying to teach it, and you're trusting guys to go do it. I can't go out there and do it. I'd rather just go out there myself, but you can't. And so you got to trust guys and get them prepared and throw them out there and then just kind of watch them play. But I think that the way this season has unfolded and then who our opponent is this week makes it really unique.
Yeah, especially with what potentially is on the line
No doubt.
for Furman, and you know that the Citadel would love to play spoiler in that since they have no shot at getting into the playoffs now. And you know, we're told they're bringing 10 busloads of cadets up here for this game. So we should have, especially if Furman fans respond, we should have the biggest crowd easily of the season, maybe the biggest crowd of my 7 years here as the play-by-play voice. This has a chance to be just a rocking atmosphere on Saturday, and you know it. You've been in, really, I guess, on both sides throughout your career. Citadel would love to do nothing more than come up here and rain on our parade.
Yeah, 100%. And here's the thing about them: they've got a lot of pride. I mean, if they win, they can have a win this season if they win the next 2 games or win this game. So they're going to come in trying to play. They want to send their seniors out the right way. And obviously, you know, they're sitting there talking about the history of the 2 programs. They want to beat Furman as well. So it's not like anybody's coming in here to lay down. Nobody's going to come in here to give us anything. And I think that we've sent that message as a staff. I know I have with my receivers. And, you know, we got to come out like, you know, we're and play the way that we in our heads want to win.
I was asked this question as a guest on another show last night, and I'll be interested to get your perspective. The way the question was posed to me was, at the beginning of the year, before you kick off the first game, did you see this kind of turnaround being possible this quickly? And I had to be honest and say no. I had a feeling it was going to come, but I obviously didn't see it coming as quickly and as dramatically as it has. If you look at where we were with a lot of unknowns on the defensive side of the ball, all the young players who were going to have to play prior to kickoff, and then the number of freshmen that by the time we were 2 or 3 games into the season that had gone from 13 to like 25.
Right.
So I had to answer honestly, no, I didn't see it happening this quickly. What about you as a coach on this staff? Could you have envisioned this thing turning as quickly and dramatically as it did?
Well, I don't know if I could say envisioned. I truly thought that our mindset was to take it 1 week at a time and just kind of see if we could get better every week. I knew that we would be in a position to do some good things by the nature of what we did and how we practiced, and then just how we matched up with different teams. So as far as winning 6 straight and all that stuff, honestly, I wish that wouldn't have happened. I wish we would have won week 1, you know, and won week 2 when we had the opportunities to. And then, you know, who knows what would have taken place down the road. But I think those 2 games gave our guys a taste of, okay, what we can be. We haven't done it, but what we can, and gave them a little bit of a nugget to keep working, and now it's worked in our favor. Now we have a chance to, you know, squeeze them out, get in hard games. We felt like what it was like to lose close. We don't want to be there anymore, and I think that's all helped in the turnaround.
So was there anything particular about the when you were playing at Citadel or playing against Citadel that kind of sticks out? It's like a single memory or a play, a interaction with one of the Citadel players or something like that, or just from going into the game week about it? Like what sticks out from your as a student athlete from your days playing against the Citadel?
Yeah, not a specific play. You know, we were. When I look at my most recent year in 2004, we were just so dominant.
Yes.
You know, that game, we might have played a half, you know, as far as the starters were concerned. I remember going down there and losing. I do remember that. I remember Josh Stepp played in that game at quarterback a little bit. Bo Moore was playing. I remember going down there and losing. I just remember them being very physical, a physical hard bunch, you know, and you had to bring it. And it didn't matter, you know, how good you were or how much better you were athletically. It kind of equalized it, and you had to come out and play. And just in 2004, we were just really, really good. And we overmatched them. But the rest of the years, I felt like we had to come to play.
Final thing, as we get set to wrap it up and let you get back to work, because we don't want to be an excuse for anything. The wide receivers are unprepared because they run their coaches on the Dan Scott Show. Just from your standpoint, what are a couple of keys for this week?
Well, number one, I mean, I'm a receiver coach, so it's going to sound weird to some people when I say it, but we got to run the ball well. I'm used to being on the other side of this offense, from a player standpoint and as a coach for the past few years. And, it sucks to sit on the other side and the ball's just moving down the field and you as offense coach are just sitting there not doing anything. Mm-hmm. So it's like when I say I'm the happiest receiver coach in the world, I'm happy because I'm on that side now where our offense is moving. We got to continue to do that. We got to run the ball. Ball security is going to be key. If you look at the season, how it's unfolded all throughout our conference, the team with the most turnovers usually loses. Mm-hmm. And a lot of teams have had multiple, and it's hurt them. So we have to take care of the ball. Obviously, we're known for having big plays. We got to hit them when they're there. We can't be off a fraction. We got to hit them and make them go. And then, we got to support our defense, put them in good situations, special teams-wise. I mean, Citadel blocked 3 punts last week.
Wow.
So special teams wise, we gotta come to play, be on our P's and Q's. We gotta take care of the football there too, and it's gonna take a total team effort. That's what it's kind of like the Mercer game. Throw the records out the window. I mean, it means something to people, and so it's gonna be a hard-nosed 60-minute game that we gotta show up and we gotta play every play of it.
Spoken like a true coach. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it, man.
That's our good friend Brian Bratton. And the game, of course, is 2 p.m. here on Saturday at Paladin Stadium. All right, trivia question. Maybe Brian knows this before he goes.
Let's see what we got. All right, don't look at the answer.
All right.
What year did Furman score the most points against the Citadel, and how many points did they score?
Ooh. What year?
Yep, what year?
I'd say 04 just because I was on that team. Is that right?
No, you scored 33 points that game, which is pretty good. But in 1987, they scored 58 in the 58-13 victory over the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I was 5 years old.
Yeah. Well before your time and my time.
And what year were you 5 years old?
1987.
1987?
87, yeah.
I was 20.
Ooh.
I was -5. I wasn't even a thought yet.
That's the way it goes sometimes.
Yes, sir.
All right, that's pretty much going to wrap things up for us. We appreciate your time and attention. Back with you tomorrow, hoping, got to get it confirmed, but hoping to have the inimitable Hunter Reed here in studio with us to lend his 30-plus year perspective on this rivalry as we continue to focus in on Furman and the Citadel. And then Doug Allison should be here tomorrow, as well as the semifinals and finals of the Southern Conference soccer tournament for the men are on campus this weekend. Big days the next 2 days on the show, and look forward to having you with us. For Forrest, for Brian Bratton, I'm Dan Scott saying God bless you. So long, everybody.